So first of all, thank you so much for joining us all today. I am not sure if you've heard about us before this. I think some of you have, because some of you I've certainly spoken to. But OnBoarding Officers is a business that I started over 2 years ago. And my whole mission was to help those people who I believe have got so much to add to the commercial boardrooms of Britain, transfer from their military career into the commercial boardrooms. We've had some fantastic successes. Sadly, because of COVID, we had to cancel 2 cohorts last year, but we've got plenty of people interested in this year's cohorts, and we'll give you the details of those towards the end. But we're so pleased with the progress that we're making, and personally, this is my absolute passion project. I believe so important that we try and repopulate our boardrooms with a much more diverse group of people. So who are we? Well, basically, we're an organisation set up exclusively for exiting military officers. And our plan is to provide the members, and it is a membership organisation, because once you join and become an alumni, you're part of our organisation for life. So any new initiatives that we have, any new opportunities that we become aware of, we're actively sharing with you those all the time. And there will hopefully be meetups between our cohorts from the very start of our programme, because one of the ways that you definitely improve your prospects of getting on a board is networking, and that's one of the things that we really want to do more of. Obviously, it's been a bit challenging through the COVID period. So what do? Well, we have a 5-day insight program, and I call it that because it's very practical. And one of the reasons why we cancelled 2 of our cohorts was because I don't want to take this process online. This is a really hands-on method of developing your skill set. And while we've managed with Zoom on so many things, I just thought it would dilute the offering. So we're very keen to do this only on a live basis. The best news that I have to share with you all is that even though we're only 2 years old as an organisation, that we are one of 3 finalists in the Northern Leadership Awards for the Best Leadership Programme, which is a fantastic accolade and says as much about our delegates and alumni as it does about us. And we've got some amazing support acts with our ambassadors and super neds. Our ambassadors are exited military individuals who have gone on to make a career out of a portfolio process, and therefore feel probably more like peers than our super neds. And our super neds are civilians who have made a career out of having multiple non-exec directorships, and they're there to support and help you throughout your journey to your boardroom. We're also really, really proud of pulling together some fantastic partners. The Officers Association, which I'm sure most of you are aware of, and then we've partnered with New Role, and New Role were one of the first online invitation-only platforms that deal exclusively with non-executive director roles. And once you have passed through our Insight programme, you're automatically invited to join that platform. And though regularly have probably about 30 or 40 positions at any one time. Dynamic Boards is a really new connection, and we're just putting all their details on our website, but this is an amalgamator of non-exec positions, only paid positions. Now, while some of you may be happy in the early days to take on a non-remunerated role, and some of the roles that are on New Role are non-remunerated, the Dynamic Board platform is only about paid roles. And the beauty of New Role and Dynamic Boards is it doesn't matter that you don't know the headhunter, because they are pushing these opportunities out to you. So we're thrilled with that relationship. The other one is Connected. Again, a new relationship that we've developed this last year. And this is a platform that exclusively matches up non-executive directors with early stage business. Now, these early stage businesses, entrepreneurs, some of which are very young and dynamic, are probably not going to be able to pay you vast sums of money as a non-exec director. So with Connected, it is likely that most of those roles will be what we call sweet equity, where you would be rewarded with a slice of their pie in return for some of your time. Now, if you join our program, I will explain to you the pros and cons of those sorts of roles, but we're very happy to be involved with that organization. And again, this is a new role, a new partner. DAC Beechcroft is a Magic Circle law firm, and they have a non-exec director club. And in fact, our August Insight program is being hosted there. One of the things that we are trying to organize for our August process is that on the Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday night, we will hold a little sort of drinks event at the end of each evening for you to actually meet these individual organizations. So Monday might be New Role, Tuesday Dynamic Boards, and Wednesday Connected. And the opportunity there is to meet the people face to face so that they can put a face to you and you can put a face for them, which is a real privilege because these are all online platforms. So for you to get to know those people firsthand is something we're working hard to sort that out. The other thing that we do, which is different to other organizations, is that this isn't just about coming on a training program and then you're left to your own resources. One of the things that we thought was really important for individuals who have never sat in a more commercial boardroom is perhaps before they jump feet first into an opportunity to come and sit and observe a board meeting of one of our super neds or our ambassadors. So whilst it has to be pre-arranged, and obviously there's the usual non-disclosure agreements needed to be put in place, that's wonderful opportunity for you to see actually what really goes on behind those closed doors. So we're providing you, I hope, with this wonderful networking opportunity through our partners here, and those are just some of our partners. We've got other fantastic partners, but these are the ones I wanted to talk about today because those are the doorway, if you like, into the roles. And we've got fantastic contacts, so anything that we can share with you about that, we will be doing. Part of our process is to hold your hand through all this. So if you needed ongoing support prior to an interview, what sort of questions might they ask? Can you look at this job role? Do you think it's for me? Can you have a look at my CV? All our super neds and ambassadors are there and willing to help, as are the tutors, so including myself. And then if you are in role and you get a question that you need some help on, then just pick up the phone or drop us an email and we'll do everything we can to help. And so for those of you who don't know very much about me, this is me. I guess I am a little bit of a serial non-exec director. I'm currently, that actually should say 6 companies. I've got 6 company chairs, and over my career, I've held about 40 different NED positions. I should tell you that's not because they keep sacking me. I tend to work with companies for a particular process, either an exit or a transfer into another family generation or whatever. But what that's meant is that I've got lots and lots of experience in the field of lots of different industry and lots of different qualities of board, and certainly where I've cut my teeth anyway, seeing the good, the bad and the indifferent. And as you can see, I've won a few awards and I've written some books. The book that you might be interested in would be either The Keys to the Boardroom, which is about executive transfers into the boardroom, or How to be a world-class non-exec director. But if you come and join our organisation, all the information that you need will be available throughout that Insight program. So but please do buy a book, because I get 6 pence every time you buy one, so I need you to go and have a look on Amazon. Okay, so what exactly is a non-executive director? So every board in Britain, every company must have a director, and there are many different kinds of directors, but the 2 main types are executive directors. Those are directors who hold a role, a functional role. So they could be head of finance or operations or tech or research or marketing or whatever. And then there are non-executive directors. Now, a non-executive director has exactly the same liabilities and exactly the same voting rights as the executive director. However, they have no functional role. So they're generally not employees, and they're generally not in the business on a day-to-day basis. But different kinds of businesses use NEDs in different ways. Excuse the abbreviation. The non-exec directors usually abbreviate it to a NED. And sometimes it can be as much as a commitment as a day a week. I was looking at some roles on Connected, and some of those are 2 and 3 days a week. And then some are just 1 day a month. So it really varies from company to company and the stage they are. The beauty of being a NED is the flexibility and the wonderful challenges, and it's a real journey of excitement and highs and lows, and it's just fun, to be honest. Even through the pandemic, it's been fun to be part of these boards as they've gone through this incredibly challenging time for all of us. So the NED has got no functional responsibilities, but that doesn't mean they have got any less liabilities. So what are people looking for? Because you do not have to have a non-exec. They are looking for you to add value, to challenge the executive team, to support them, to provide contacts, to provide ideas, to help them reimagine and revision their business, which is something that all my boards are currently working on at the moment. We're having to reimagine the future. So, whilst there are different types of directors, there are also different types of companies. There are about 3 million companies registered in the UK, but of course it is possible that you could live overseas and be a director of a UK company. That is absolutely a possibility. You do not have to be a UK resident to be a director of a UK company. The most typical company of those 3 million that are out there are what we call private limited companies. And a private limited company is generally one where the directors and the shareholders are often the same people. Most businesses in the UK, we really are a world in the UK of shopkeepers. And so most businesses in the UK are SMEs. So private limited companies, the directors and the owners tend to be the same people. And it is in that sector that I have predominantly worked. And it is by far and away the most exciting sector. It's very agile. People can make decisions very quickly. But of course, it's been the most challenged because those are the businesses that have really had to struggle because they haven't had the funding that they needed to get them through the pandemic. And then there are public companies, and the most common public company is one that's listed on the stock exchange. And if you join a board that's listed on the stock exchange, there are 2 types of companies. There are those listed on the main London Stock Exchange and those listed on the alternative investment market, which we call AIM. To join one of those boards, it's exactly the same process of joining a private company board, but your ability to report is clearly a lot more transparent than in a private company because you are reporting your performance at least on a half yearly and some on a much more regular basis than that. So it tends to be more challenging in terms of visibility, but it also tends to be a lot more well remunerated. The number of roles, however, tend to be much more of a volume in private limited companies. You've probably heard of partnerships, and generally partnerships are thought about to be used in the sector such as the professional sector, so lawyers and accountants and what have you. But partnerships transformed for a lot of organisations into what we call an LLP. Without spending too much time talking about what that is, it looks a little bit like a partnership, but within a company shell. So if you were to join one of those boards, you would not be called a director, you would be called a partner, but you do have directors who have limited roles in those partnerships in the same way that a non-exec director does. A joint venture or a JV is where 2 companies come together, and they're very often looking for independent directors, because if you imagine you've got 2 companies who are working together on one project, They may have opposing views or conflicting views, and so often they're looking for somebody independent to bridge those difficulties. There are certainly lots and lots of opportunities in third sector businesses. So companies limited by guarantee don't have shareholders. So they could be schools, they could be housing associations. Sometimes some charities also have a company limited by guarantee because it enables them to trade in a commercial manner. Community interest companies tend to be small businesses that are satisfying the needs of a local community, tend not to be remunerated roles. So these third sector roles tend not to be remunerated, although housing associations are, and there are lots of opportunities in that sector, but the remuneration tends to be quite modest. And of course, charities is definitely an area where we should be looking for you to take one of your first steps, because whilst those are not remunerated, because the Charities Act doesn't allow payments to be made to non-exec directors, it's a very interesting role to take on, because you never know who might be sat around the table, recognise your skill set, and perhaps want to recommend you to a more commercial role. So those are some of the types of opportunities that exist out there. If we could go to the next slide, please, Rachel. Please, if anybody's got any questions, please drop it in the chat room or raise your hand. In the meantime, I'll just keep going then. So what is your role as a non-executive director? Well, let me tell you what it's not. You are not running the company. That is the job of the executive team. Your job is to challenge what they're doing, not in a destructive way, in a constructive way, and provide them with perhaps this external perspective of, have you thought of, why don't you try? I've seen this work somewhere else, or actually I've seen this work less effectively. Perhaps we should have another look at it. So it's an oversight role, but it's also a supporting role. A great NED is going to also take a really important part in helping that executive team decide on what that journey and destination is going to look like. So whilst we would not expect a non-exec director to actually write the company strategy or set the vision and missions and so on, we would expect you to be part of the construction of that and to bring your ideas and thoughts to the table. One of the things I love about these opportunities that we're putting together is that the thought process of the military is so different in so many ways to a normal commercial focused individual who hasn't had the fantastic experiences and both professional and life experiences, living and working overseas, dealing with masses of different cultures, different types of personnel. Most directors in the UK do not have that wide experience that I think is something that you guys and girls can bring to the table. So what do you need really to be good at this? And you'll notice I've put right at the top of my list a sense of humour. And having worked with lots of people now from the military, I've not met anybody who hasn't got a fantastic sense of humour. And I think that's one of the things that makes you perhaps more resilient than many people in what I call the commercial world. And we've all, in my field, had to develop, you know, a substantial sense of humour through very challenging times. But that doesn't come naturally to people. And one of the great things about being a non-exec is sometimes you can help lift a difficult and challenging debate in a board by using an appropriate amount of humour. Of course, it has to be appropriate. It has to be politically acceptable. But sometimes, you know, you just need to have a laugh. I also think that one of the things that you guys can bring is realistic thought and great communicator. After all, this is what you've been doing your entire career, communicating at all levels. And whilst a great executive is very good at that, unfortunately, they're not in the numbers that I'd like to see them. Finally, keeping calm. And I have been involved with some very successful businesses who've really coped well and come out of this pandemic stronger and better than they were, but have equally been parts of boards who have found it very, very difficult indeed to stay calm. And as a non-exec director on those boards, it has been my job and my privilege to actually help them manage themselves, their company and their staff through these dreadful times that we've all seen. And now we're coming out of it. It is so personally rewarding to have been part of that whole process. So if we could go on to the next one. Okay, so there's no doubt that there are challenges. I sit on 6 boards, but I also have a day job. I am the CEO of OnBoarding. I'm also CEO of FDS, which is my other company where we buy and sell businesses. We're extremely busy on that. We done about 400 odd transactions over the last 30 years. I write books. I speak at about 100 events a year. And so my mind is constantly on lots and lots of things. What is important as a NED is to be in the room and leave any and all of your own personal and other business issues at the door. It's a courtesy, but I also think it's a duty to give the very best you can when you're in that room. So sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge if you've got other things going on, and it's certainly extremely demanding. Again, something which I believe this audience are not going to struggle with at all. You have to be on all the time. The on switch is always switched up, because constantly, and it's been very much demonstrated through the pandemic, is once you join a board and you become that world-class NED that I know that you're all capable of doing, you will be the person that the executives want to call on, even if it is just to tell you their problem, even though they know the answer. Sometimes they just need space to air it. And so it can be very demanding dealing with these multiples of issues. You have to be brave and you have to have a thick skin, because sometimes you're telling a nasty truth. Sometimes it's you that has to point out that elephant in the room, and it can make you the least popular person. Again, I don't think you guys and girls are going to have problems with this, but some people definitely do. One brilliant thing about this audience is that it is unlikely that you will feel too close to the industry that you sit in. Now, the boards that I sit on range from waste management to cybersecurity to financial services to engineering to infrastructure. So very wide spread of areas, which means that I am not tempted to interfere too much with the executive team, because you know what? I've never run a waste management business in my life. So that means I can give them a free hand to do what they're good at. And I can ask those stupid questions, which actually other people wanted to ask but didn't want to, because they didn't want to feel foolish. Okay, so those are some of the challenges. What are the opportunities? I keep mentioning the F word, and I love my job. It really is fun. Don't think for one moment that it's laughs all the way, because it's not. And I have many a sleepless night worrying about the businesses that I'm involved in. In fact, my family have often said to me, Mummy or Joe, why are you doing this? It's not even your business. Why aren't you sleeping? It's because I feel passionately about it. Kat, you've got a question. Would you like to speak it, or would you prefer to put it in the chat room? Typing now. Thank you, Kat. Just while Kat's typing that question in, I'll just go into the second one. So the other thing is the ability to make a real difference. I was saying that, you know, we've been through some difficult times, but as we've come out of this pandemic and I've seen how people have survived, and I certainly haven't done it, but I know I've helped them. And it gives you a fantastic buzz knowing that you've helped people through difficult problems. So I have a question. How are we to demonstrate our ability to provide value with no corporate experience? Okay, so that is a hurdle that we are going to help you overcome. So first of all, we're going to give you a translation guide. When you join our cohort, the first 2 days are run by myself, and it's about governance, and it's about what happens in the boardroom. It's about getting into that first role. It's about doing your pre-appointment due diligence. It's about getting your CV fit for purpose. Because while you don't appear to have been in a boardroom, most of you will have been in a command room. And there are so many similarities between what happens in that room as they happen in a commercial boardroom. What we need to do is we need to give you the guide to help you portray that experience in a way that the interviewer, be they a headhunter or a CEO you've met at some event and as you asked you to pop in and see them, they can actually understand the value you can have. It doesn't matter that you haven't sat in a traditional boardroom, because you've got so many skills that we can show you how to explain that to a civilian. One of the things that you may be surprised to hear is that many civilians will be so in awe of what you've done that they are afraid of speaking to you. So we need to make them less concerned about your ability and you confident that actually what they're saying you understand and you can help them. So that whole translation process is something that we spend a good couple of hours on in the first 2 days. And of course, I'm not sure about the age profiles of the people on this process, and one of the options that you could all have is go and get a full-time executive career. But the beauty about a NED career is it can be extremely well remunerated, and it can give you some of the skills that actually might at a later date enable you to move into an executive role more smoothly. It's allowing you to earn additional income, and you know, while some roles are unpaid, other roles can be very, very lucrative indeed. So you can actually end up working less time for actually more money than you would in a full-time role, and therefore allowing you time to do some pro bono work or basically just have some free time for yourself. All the skills that you have learnt in your career, you will have so much to share with those boards and help them enjoy your experiences and learn from those experiences. So there is never a dull moment in this process. You will build up what I call a black book to die for. And that's one of the important things that you'll need to do as you progress through the career. Because part of the job of a world-class NED is to be able to effect introductions. And you'll be amazed at who those people might be. So you might think, well, I wouldn't know anybody that could help this organization. But I guarantee when we start to dig down at who and what you know, you will have plenty of people that you could introduce to those boards. Okay, so the next things. Okay, so what have you got that is definitely, transparently transferable into the boardroom? Well, without a doubt, you are able to see the bigger picture. You can see opportunities beyond the norm. You can think in a different way. And there is this process of diversity that is talked about widely in businesses, but not many people talk about diversity of thought. They tend to talk about diversity in terms of age and ethnicity and gender, but rarely talk about diversity of thought. And that is so what I think can add massive value to the boardroom. Let's change the way you think. Let's approach this problem, this opportunity in a different way. I also think that it's been built into your skill set through your training and development about building a very high EQ. I haven't met anybody, again, on any of our cohorts who this doesn't come to naturally. That sometimes you have to be hard, you have to say things that are going to upset people, but everybody I've met understands how to do that in the right way. And I think that's just something innate. There's no doubt that, again, your training has given you incredible stamina, you know, huge amounts of energy and commitment, great at solving problems. And when I talked about the fact that some commercial businesses are going to be almost intimidated by your background, on the other hand, the gravitas that actually that brings to the board can actually be a huge positive. So next slide, please. So there are lots of opportunities. I mentioned that there are 3 million companies, but there are actually 6 million businesses. So as well as companies, there are other organizations. So there's plenty of organizations, if you like, out there where we can hopefully introduce you, or you can make a proactive approach to, and we'll be talking about that on the program of how to do it. There's no doubt about it that challenges are increasing. I've just been running an event this morning actually for some non-executive directors based in Kuala Lumpur, and it's amazing how similar their challenges are to our challenges here in terms of attracting talent, keeping the talent, reimagining their businesses, understanding how they're going to operate in the new post-COVID world, exactly the sort of problems that the companies I'm dealing with here are dealing with. So your innate training on a logical thought process, the golden thread of logic that I've heard so many of you talk about, comes naturally. So you would naturally go through a process of coming to a conclusion rather than doing what I've seen all too often, doing a jumping in and making a decision on the hoof without adequate thought, just because they feel there's an emergency to deal with. There's also no doubt that our government is forcing directors to be more accountable. So boards are looking to upskill their board members and to bring in new talent that can help in that upskilling. These are areas where you can definitely add that value. Understanding risk, again, part of your DNA. You would be amazed at how many boards I sit with that don't even have a risk register, that don't understand how to articulate either their understanding of risk appetite or tolerance, and in fact don't even understand the difference between those two terms. More and more businesses are signing up to the Armed Forces Covenant, and of course that means they are looking to find opportunities for people from the military. So there is an increasing opportunity, and one of the things that's come out of COVID is the obvious skill set of the military to pick some of those up, because we've been so reliant on many of the people still serving. Okay, so if we could have the next one. And so the impact of COVID, as I've mentioned, has meant that it's become abundantly clear that our companies out there need some support in dealing not only with the fallout of this crisis, but the crises that are certain to come as a result of this, whether that be another financial crisis or even a boom. Those opportunities and threats are something that probably many of our boards are absolutely unprepared for. So with the amount of businesses that are SME accounting for most of the companies out there, the shortage of funding is going to be a serious problem. And as a result of that, those boards are going to have to be a lot more creative with what they've got. They're going to have to think of different ways of incentivizing their staff, of paying their suppliers, of engaging with talent. So a different way of approaching those problems is something that I think you can bring to the party. All businesses have been affected in one way or another, but of course the north of England and Scotland, and of course central London, because of the density of the business, have been the hardest hit. That means that that's where the opportunities are going to be. And one of the things that has definitely come out of COVID, though, is you don't need to go to a board meeting physically. It's quite clear that you could be based anywhere in the world and attend board meetings. Although I have to say, I can't wait personally to sit round a board table again. I'm totally all zoomed out on our meetings, and it's just not the same as being in the same room. But certainly a hybrid model is going to make it a lot more flexible, I think, for people. Okay, so what can you bring now more than ever? So I think your ability to deploy a framework analysis to a particular issue would be enlightening to so many boards. They'll have never seen the sort of way that you deal with a particular issue. And as military officers, you know that knowledge is power. and that when used appropriately, it can really change the direction of a business. How to access that knowledge and how to utilize it is again something that I would hope you would be able to bring to the party. This always having an out. What COVID did was it left us in a locked room for most of us, no idea where the door is, and all the lights are switched off, and we're all searching madly for a way out. Of course, what you guys and girls are used to is having pre-planned that. And I think whilst people are going to be more aware of the need to have some sort of exit strategy if something doesn't work the first time, they're at a bit of a loss of where to start. And quite frankly, many of the boards I work with, either directly or indirectly, are so tired that they don't know what to pick up first. They're jaded, and they needed a new injection of energy and thought. And again, I hope that would be something you'll be able to do. And of course, we all need motivating. I mean, I've just been talking to these people in KL this morning. I mean, saying, you know, at the moment, I've got lots of CEOs who need what I call a lot of stroking. They are war weary, not in the way you guys understand that, but they're fed up of fighting, and they have lost some of the passion that they've had because they need a rest. And part of a great NED's job is to reignite that passion. I've been spending a lot of time with some of my CEOs, encouraging and engaging them to say, yes, we can do this all together. We just need to keep going to get over these final hurdles. Okay, so the next one. The first role is the hardest to get. There is no doubt about that. I have to tell you, and I'm great, I'm going to introduce you to all these headhunters and so on, but I have never ever got a job from an agency or from an advert. It's all been from a tap on the shoulder. In fact, when people ask me how I get my posts, I will usually say I usually drink about 1 litre of Chardonnay at least once a week, because I'm out all the time. And obviously it's been a bit more challenging because of COVID, but I'm always out doing something, talking to people. But it's also important to network virtually. So, you know, you do need to get your brand right, to get your positioning across all the social media platforms, to become a thought leader, so that when an individual organization is looking for somebody, they'll remember that they've read something that you've written for LinkedIn, or they've seen a blog on something. And there are so many opportunities to put these sorts of pieces in the press, in the on the web, that there's no excuse not to do it. The biggest problem is thinking what you're going to actually talk about. Once we've agreed what your thought leadership piece is, then hopefully you can start and get this out into the wider area. You do need, of course, a magnificent NED CV. And whilst applications for NED roles don't tend to be in the hundreds in the same way as executives do, you need to stand out. And on day 2 of our Insight programme, we will help you create a fantastic NED CV. And one of our success stories was from our first cohort, where one of the guys, he was just coming out of serving as a major in the Marines, and he wanted to take a role just to sort of get some board experience before he decided what to do. And he applied to a housing association, and he got an interview, and the person who interviewed him said, "We gave you an interview because your CV jumped out at us. It looks so different to everybody else's." He got the job. The CV didn't get in the job. What the CV did was giving the opportunity to shine at the interview. So we're really proud of that. So you will be given those tools as part of our process. And of course, we'll be encouraging you to take, as I mentioned, some pro bono roles, because it is in there where you will cut your teeth. As I say, it's the first role, it's the hardest to get. I just had a lovely message this week again from one of our alumni who'd started off as a school governor, and he's just got his first paid role. And I was delighted in the pitch, in the photograph that he sent us on our social network, because I had a picture of my book and going, I couldn't have done it without the book. Actually, that's not true. Of course he did. Of course he could have done it. But he went on to say, what onboarding did was give me the confidence to take up that role. So we've had lots and lots of stories like that. So 2 years into our journey now, I can actually give you some real life success stories, which I'm thrilled about. And of course, it would have been more, but having to cancel 2 cohorts, it slowed things down again. But we're raring and ready to go next. Okay, so the next one, please, is to tell you about our cohorts. So these are all going to be run in central London. So these are the dates and our link to our onboarding information. And Nikki, who you may be able to see on the little Zoom menu there, is the person that will help you. If you are LCAS eligible, then we can help you complete the LCAS accreditation process, and we will provide you with all the details of those cohorts and where they are, but it will be central London. In terms of any more information, if there's anything that I haven't given you and you think about it after this, please do either email myself directly, and it's joe@wearefds.com, or contact Nikki through the info@onboarding, and we'll send you whatever information you need. Just to tell you, we will not be accepting any more than 15 people on each of these cohorts. We want to make it as tailored as we can. So you're not going to be in a room with 30 or 40 people. You're going to get lots of individual attention. What we do on days 1 and 2 is we do about governance and getting you the roles and getting you fit for service in those roles. On the next day, we have a day on finance, and then the following day, a half day on finance, and then the last days are on marketing. And it's those 3 areas that we feel that would be valuable to you coming from a non-commercial background. You, of course, are used to budgets, but you're perhaps not used to reading a balance sheet. You've probably not been involved in a lot of marketing activity, and you've probably not very well experienced in terms of governance, practicing boards. So we're trying to fill the gaps. We're not trying to make you into a finance director or a marketing director or a governance expert. What we're trying to do is to colour in those areas that might be a little bit grey, to enable you to go into those boardrooms in full technicolor and understand what the person interviewing you is saying. And you'll see when you go on our website that we've had some fantastic testimonials with some really, really senior people saying it's some of the best transition support that they've ever had. So we're extremely proud of that. And then to be nominated for this Leadership Programme of the Year, we are really, really proud of what we've done so far, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So I hope you will join our community, and I hope I'll be able to help you through the rest of your journey. Is there anybody that's got any questions they'd like to ask or like to put in the chat? No? Okay. Well, are there still any, are there any failure stories to share? Okay, well, I'm not sure I like the word failure, Kat, actually. But we've had people who've gone for interviews who haven't succeeded, sure. But we have used that because they've come to us and said, I haven't got it. And then we've analysed why. And I would always encourage anybody who hasn't actually succeeded in getting a role to actually say, why haven't I got this? And we've helped them use that so that when they go for the next interview, they have secured that role. And one of those people, again, was somebody from our first cohort. And she was applying to roles through New Role, and she didn't get the first one. She's one of our youngest alumni. We then did a mock interview with her, and when she went for the second role, I'm delighted to tell you she got that role. So not a failure. just learning. So Matthew, Joe, I've had some IT faff at my end. Love working from home. Can we see portions of the recording that we missed? Of course, we'll let you have the recording, no problem at all. And I believe, can we let everybody have the slides as well, Rachel? Yes, so we can let you have the slides and the recording. Not a problem at all. Okay, that's the realist in me talking, Kat. Absolutely, yes. And of course, you know from your own background that not everything succeeds first time. And if we did, you know, that everybody would be jumping on the non-exec bandwagon. What we want you to be is we want you to be a world-class NED, and that might take a few steps. How does the alumni interact post the course? We've got an alumni LinkedIn group, I believe, Rachel. We also have chat rooms that we're just developing on now, but we were planning, but of course COVID screwed everything up. We were planning on having a celebration passing out party for the cohorts, and whilst it was going to be a bit of a party, we were going to invite all our partners, so Connected and New Role and Vistage and their lawyers and so on, because this way to make this work is for you to meet people who make decisions. And so we are planning on doing that. We've just had our plans scuppered a little bit by what would it be? Oh yeah, COVID. So we're working on that for this year.
Sorry, Joe, I think Rich had a question.
Rich.
Hi, Joe. Thanks,
Rich.
Thanks, Nikki. Hi, Joe. Thanks very much for the
Hi, Rich.
for the slide pack. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
So I had a question about, I've had the opportunity to join a school as board as the governors.
Yes.
But a couple of people have said to me, actually, they don't see it as valued as much as such as a housing association board or a charity. And I just wanted to see what your view of that, given all of it, or given your experience, because I'm kind of a little bit uncertain about, should I take that opportunity or should I look elsewhere? So I'd be grateful for any advice that you give.
So I'm not sure who's telling you it's not useful, but it depends the type of school. So if you're in an academy school is a company and they will have a budget. And I mean, I was working with training some academy school governors late last year, and they had a £46 million budget. So that was not a small school. However, if you're just working with a local, primary school, local authority, it is going to feel a little bit different. But that isn't to say that you shouldn't do it, because one of the parents sat on that board next door to you, sitting around the table, talking about whatever it is that's on the agenda, could have a business. They could see how effective you are, Rich, and go, actually, Rich, could you come and talk to me about what you could do for my business? In fact, again, another of our success stories is that is exactly what happened with one of our alumni. He joined a school board and he met the person that offered him a role on his commercial board. So whilst in a small primary school owned by the local authority, it's not going to feel very businessy, I still wouldn't overlook it. But if you get the chance to join an academy school, Rich, I definitely would join it.
Perfect. Thanks. It is an academy, so that's really useful.
It is?
Yeah.
Well, then an academy school is a limited company, limited by guarantee. It's absolutely like a company. You have to make decisions about the budget in exactly the same way you would in a commercial company. You have to make decisions about how to raise finance in exactly the same way in a commercial company. So I say join it. Definitely join it.
And I bought your book as well, so thank you for that.
Oh, thank you very much. I think I've missed a couple of questions here. I can see one from Charles. Excellent talk. Thank you very much. Do you have any dates for early next year yet? I think we're going to be talking about that tomorrow, aren't we, Rach?
Yeah, we are going to be looking in the diary and seeing when we can schedule those in.
So we should be able to let you know next week, I would hope. And then a message from Rachel. Do organisations wanting NEDs have any issues with somebody having another primary business? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I myself, obviously, I've got my own business. I've got my own couple of businesses and I sit on several boards, and they love that because you're bringing additional information, ways of working. So if you've got you might have a full-time executive role, for instance, or you might be running your own business. And there are plenty of non-exec directors out there that we've either helped through this transition to do that, to set up their own business. I'm thinking of one chap, I think actually it's called March Together. Ryan March is one of our delegates. I think he's the one that's just got another fantastic paid role, isn't it, Rach? Yeah. So part of our process when we first met was he was wondering about setting up his own business. We gave him some suggestions and ideas on that. He's gone off and he's doing really well. And then he's the one that's posted this week that he's got his paid role. So absolutely no problem at all on that, Charles.
Okay.
Okay, any more messages? Do I see one more message here? Any more? Okay.
I put my hand up, Joe. If you've got
Charles, I beg your pardon. So you have. I didn't know if I was answering your question. How can I help you, Charles?
So my wife and I are about to set up a small business, not a giant Joe type one, but it's big.
Everything I started in my back bedroom, as everybody does who's an entrepreneur.
So, but we're thinking, we're tossing up in our minds whether to set ourselves up as a limited company or whether to set ourselves up as a partnership. And I think you'd probably guess where this is going. If I'm looking for a non-executive directorship and already I'm a director of a company, is that likely to be helpful?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a bit of a balance. If you've got 30 non-exec roles and running your own business, people are going to wonder, have you got the time and headspace to do that? But I thought you were going to ask, should I set up a limited company or a partnership? And the answer is 110% set up a limited company. First of all, it's much safer for you as individuals. It's better from a visibility point of view. It gives much more credibility because externally people will think it's a much more substantial business. And whilst you have to produce accounts, the accounts will be what are called abbreviated accounts. So you won't have to tell people how well you're doing. Also, regardless of your turnover, Charles, register for VAT. Unless you're setting up a B2C business. B2B businesses would expect you to be registered for VAT, even if you don't need to be registered. It gives another perception of size. All this is the sort of stuff as well that we talk about on the programme. Because if you're going to be a serial Ned, I would be recommending you set up what's called a personal service company. And that I always recommend doing that through a company. So we'd give you all that sort of information as well.
Thanks very much, Joe.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anybody else got any questions? Well, it's been really great to meet you all. I really hope to see you on one of our cohorts, if not this year, next year. Please get in touch with us. And if there's anything else we can help you with, we will do our very best. Thank you, everybody.